Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It's 2 p.m. Finnish time and 1 o'clock in Sweden, so it's time to start our webinar. My name is Jani Tuuri, and I work as a portfolio manager at Tieturi. And as you can see on the slide, so this is the webinar which is organized together with Tieturi and Informator. And so Tieturi brand in Finland and Informator in Sweden. So welcome, everybody. If you have any problem seeing the slide or hearing me, then I would say that please try to sign in again, because you should be able to both hear and see. At least what we can see here, that should be working fine. The topic today is about requirement engineering, and basically about the role of the requirement engineering in today's modern world. So what there is for the requirement engineering, is it needed, what should be done, and so on. And the expert on the webinar is Bogdan, who's going to introduce himself a bit more in the first slides. But at this moment, I'd like to let you know that this is not one-time event to have this kind of webinar or the morning seminars. So I would suggest that if you would like to follow us, either Tieturi or Informator in the LinkedIn or Facebook, then you'll get updated what kind of this kind of short information meetings we have available. And so this is now 45 minutes, so it's a relatively short time, but we have tried to make the content thought-provoking, and probably some new ideas, some food for thought about the requirement engineering. Bogdan is also running longer trainings, of course, about this topic. Typically it's 2 or 3 days, and those are, most of them are leading to the internationally recognized certification, the IREP, provided by IREP. So that's the one option what you can think if this is an interesting topic to you. This is a short time, as said, so 45 minutes. So for the questions, I would suggest that if you have them, please type them on the chat, and then we'll pick them up from there. And the chat you can find on the left-hand side of the screen. At the bottom of the left-hand side, you can see this small, well, depending which version of the Skype you're using, but it looks like a small square with the text over there. So you can write your text, your questions on the chat. Well, without further ado, well, I think Bogdan, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for the introduction, Jani. I am happy to be here with you, and I am proud you are here to listen to me. I hope my presentation will find it interesting and useful as well. So the presentation is the essentials. So like a tea bag, it just produces the essence. It is not tea yet, but I hope I can, by giving this presentation, inspire you or give you some ideas that will let you make a good brew, a good tea out of this presentation by adding some boiling water and so on. And the presentation is about modern requirements, and by saying modern, I do not mean fashionable or most crazy or whatever. I need such for products like tents here on the picture. Modern tent is not pink, not whatever you don't need. It is something, a way to use the most modern, top modern, cutting edge technology to make life, in this case camper's life, simpler and more enjoyable. For modern processes, it means processes which make our IT projects more successful, more simpler and more enjoyable. And I believe requirements engineering is such an activity, or rather a sequence of activities that are very, very crucial, necessary, key activities for making good IT products. Like on this picture, in order to make good tents, you need to understand everything about their context, their usage. So you need a whole picture to be able to make a good tent. It's not enough to be an expert on textiles and plastics. You must know about camping. And the same applies to every area of requirements of IT development. It is not enough, definitely not enough, to be able to know everything about technologies. In order to make good, useful, elegant, comfortable IT systems, you need to know about the requirements, the way they will be used. And I hope to cover this ambitious point in 45 minutes only. So let's hurry. I have noticed I am quite advanced in years. I am not a young man any longer. So I have long experience, and this allows me sometimes to see certain interesting similarities. And I have noticed the following, that in software testing, in 1990 to 2000, we have experienced something that can be compared to a huge wave. There was a surge in the level of consciousness about the importance of software testing, and there was a surge in the amount of activities, the time spent on testing activities, and the consciousness that it is important. So the number of test-related training courses and test-related certificates and people certified, they were growing and growing very dynamically during these years. And as some of you may know, it is still, the trend is there. However, for requirements engineering, what I can say, I've seen it to some extent neglected, not always treated as it should be concerning its real importance and value. Somehow it was not, it is still is not always given the importance, respect it deserves. So, but I have noticed that there are some changes now which make me believe that in the coming, 3 years left only, maybe more, we'll see a similar, comparable to what we saw 20 years ago and more in software testing, a comparable surge in the level of consciousness of the importance of requirements engineering, or more generally of the so-called business and system analysis, and the surge of the number of people calling themselves requirement engineers, and probably the surge of the requirements on requirements. People more and more will ask for good requirements and flexible, and so on and so on. Okay, I have sometimes met people who told me that all this stuff about requirements engineering is old-fashioned. Someone once told me it was archaic, and it is not a word you are happy to hear when you are almost 60 years older yourself, like myself. So the legend, the I am afraid to say widespread, the conviction idea is that requirements engineering is something old-fashioned, something which only makes sense for traditional, old-fashioned, sequential, waterfall projects. But what is something that is not really necessary for modern IT, modern methods, modern approaches like agile or extreme with daily continuous integration, lean startup. Some people seem to believe that for these methods ideas, experiences, knowledge of the requirements engineering is obsolete. It is no longer necessary. That kind of dynamic impact makes you go forward and find the goal. Of course, traditional, old-fashioned requirements engineering, where people try to really define all requirements in advance before even trying to write the first line of code, such requirements engineering is obsolete. And the requirements engineering based on the presumption that changing requirements during the course of the project, of an IT project, is something that shouldn't happen and should be avoided at all costs, such requirements engineering is obsolete. But otherwise, during these modern, lean, continuous projects, good requirements engineering is more needed than before, even more. So I say this legend about requirements engineering and being obsolete, old-fashioned, no longer necessary, or even archaic is simply not true. So I say disappear it. So there is a name, a term called sometimes RE at Agile, which means what can it mean that requirements engineering in Agile? Is it faster requirements engineering or maybe simply less requirements engineering? Well, I would like to compare Agile projects to orienteering, a popular sport in Scandinavia, I presume in Finland as well, because you have plenty of places where running in the woods can be performed. And orienteering is very different to not running at all, because you run and you have to run fast. And orienteering is very different to running on a stadium, because orienteering is essentially running and thinking at the same time. So Agile means not running like crazy without thinking. It means running and thinking at the same time. So you have to learn how to write, absolutely. In order to perform Agile projects according to Agile methodology, you must be very, very clever technically. You must be good in testing, good in programming, good in building, configuring tools to achieve continuous integration, and clever in technically building automatic testing in order to be able to design and perform continuous testing. But first of all, you must be able to, all the time, while running, while programming, while testing, to perform requirements, elicitation, analysis, requirements modeling, validation, management, all these old-fashioned sounding terms, which are not old-fashioned at all. You simply have to perform these tasks while running. That means Agile. Let us go back 15 years to the days when Agile Manifesto was written down and published, when the kind of founding fathers, sorry or girls, but the guys who published met in the US in the mountains in a skiing resort and published the Agile Manifesto, were all guys. So what were their intentions? Well, their intentions were manifold, but some of them were to avoid the traditional and old-fashioned chaos in many IT projects. Here we have an image, a picture taken from something published yearly since a few years by the Standish Group, a company and organization publishing various interesting statistical data on IT projects and IT industry, which is called Chaos Report. And these reports, called Chaos Reports, very much show what many of us know already, that the reason for problems, delays, bugs, maintenance problems with software development or with software systems is not what some people believe, errors made by programmers, omissions by testers, but mainly it is about problems with software, with requirements engineering. Missing requirements are often the clue to avoiding these problems. So the intentions of the Agile school founding fathers was to try to avoid these problems. So what they wrote down, one of the four main principles of Agile approach is that we value working software over comprehensive documentation. And my own addition is we want satisfied customers to achieve this. Okay, what does this mean? It really means good requirements engineering, not trying naively to build all requirements in advance and then freeze them down, but rather be able to think while running, be careful, be skillful, agile requirement engineers who can think and run at the same time. So what RE at Agile, requirements engineering practices in Agile projects really mean is more necessary for efficient traceability. Traceability of requirements, being able to trace from the requirements to test cases, to code modules, and so on, up, tracing from system requirements to business needs and goals, is needed everywhere, but in Agile projects, you need it more efficient to be able to trace, not lose track of what you are building and while running. More nimble impact analysis. You have in Agile Scrum, you have to be able to perform impact analysis in 1.5 hours, because this is what Scrum Guide allows us to spend, the amount of time that Scrum Guide allows us to spend during sprint planning meeting, not longer than 1.5 hours. So you have to perform impact analysis of realizing, implementing, testing, integrating new requirements in a very short time, faster, but no less intelligently, no less correctly. You need to be able to estimate requirements, the time required for requirements implementation fast. And the idea of sprint planning meeting requires you to be very assertive in really making people believe your estimation is correct, and there is no room for excessive negotiation or trying to force you to make the unmakeable, make a miracle and implement more. So the idea that a Scrum team can say, no, we cannot perform more, is very much about being able to estimate and assertively present the results of the estimation of the requirements during sprint planning meeting. One of the points mentioned in Stanford Institute, Standish Group chaos reports is the reason for the lack of success of IT projects is insufficient customer involvement. And it goes both ways. The guilty part can be either the customer not wanting, pretending they don't have time to be involved, or it's us, developers, not wanting the customer to come and look at us when we produce code and ask uncomfortable questions. But Agile requires more efficient, more effective, more concrete customer involvement. So again, it's about Agile, and Agile Scrum is very much about customer involvement. And as you all know who run Agile projects, in order to be able to perform successfully using Agile, you need first of all to be able to prioritize your requirements so that you do not start by making unnecessary things or less necessary things. So this is the precondition for successful product backlog management and successful transformation from product backlog to well-chosen sprint backlog is the ability to prioritize, one of the key points of effective requirements engineering. So, but the greatest invention of Agile approach to requirements is how to, the greatest in my opinion, that's my own private opinion, maybe some of you may disagree that it is the greatest, but nevertheless it's a very good invention, avoiding this, a picture taken from a presentation of BDD, minimizing the risk for misunderstandings, unhappy developer and unhappy stakeholder, because what development teams spend their time on is implementing, maybe very cleverly, very well, but something not really needed, not what the stakeholders wanted, a misunderstanding. So the Agile idea is try new ways of avoiding this situation, and the name is specification by example. So specification by example, as some of you or all of you know very well, means adding examples, that is example test cases to requirements, and making it in a certain way which some people call three amigos, that is in cooperation between customer representative, maybe a product owner, developer and tester. When you have Agile in place, you may have other ideas, something which is still relatively new and fashionable, but it is a very sensible idea called DevOps. DevOps is a shortened form of development and operations. Let us first have a look at how it looks traditionally, the relationship between development and operation. Well, you have business. Business presents its ideas in the form of requirements and then gives it to development. But there is a wall, a boundary line, hard to pass boundary line between development and business. They don't speak to each other daily. Both parts are guilty because they don't find it really comfortable. Business says, we don't have time to meet you development guys every day. And the development says, we don't want these business people to come here when we are busy coding, testing, integrating, doing such technical things which they don't understand. There would only be trouble. But finally, the systems are somehow ready and they are put into operation, and then there is maintenance. And typically in many traditional organizations, the situation is that there are walls between maintenance departments, maintenance people, maintenance activities, and development activities, which creates a lot of problems. Maintenance may have to make changes from time to time to be able to meet customers' problems, customers' failures, customers' new requirements, but they do not have the development support. If it is so that development works on a new version and the maintenance changes the old version, the integration of the changes kind of unofficially made by maintenance and the changes officially made in a new release produced by the development team may be troublesome. They may be difficult to integrate. Besides, because maintenance does not have the same time and the same resources available as new development, they quite often cannot support the customers in a way that customers would like to. immediate solution to the problem, immediate meeting a new requirement, new customer requirements. Very often maintenance has to say, hi, sorry, my customer, but we are not able to solve you this or give you this now. You will have to wait for the new release, which will come soon. Have patience. It will only take 2 months. And nobody is happy because of this. And the DevOps approach tries something similar, something where maintenance, development, and business cooperate so closely together that some of the troubles, problems, inefficiencies mentioned on the previous slide in the traditional model can be removed or made weaker. How it is made? Well, let's have a look. DevOps require that you, not you as a person, but you as an organization, you as a DevOps team, make a lot of things at the same time. A lot of things which can be more comfortably done separately, sequentially, quietly, but you want to be DevOps. You want to have happier customers. So you have to do a lot of things at the same time. And from the point of view of requirements engineering, that means very, very, very clever requirements handling, where you are able to, on one hand, make a very fast and effective impact analysis, very fast implementation, probably automatically supported with automatic integration, very fast, automatic and effective testing and deployment, but you mustn't forget the requirements. If you introduce quickly a change, a new requirement that your customer requests you to do, you must not forget the old requirements, the rest of requirements, because then you will have requirements which are simply contradictory. The system will finally stop being useful. The DevOps idea has created another idea called BizDevOps, which is still more novel, which means business development and operations really work on daily basis, which means actually having business as part of the development and maintenance teams. A lot of problems, quite an interesting challenge, quite an interesting and promising opportunity. Okay, I have told a lot of words, great sounding words, modern words like DevOps, Agile, Lean, BizDevOps, and so on and so on. But maybe you are still not convinced, you do not support my opinion that Scrum, Agile and Scrum is a lot in it about requirements engineering. Of course, we all know very well it is programming and integration and testing, but it is, in my opinion, more than we realize requirements engineering. Trying to close the door here. So let's have a look at the picture all of you know very well, all of you who work with agile development, you know the official picture of what Scrum is. So let's have a look and try to identify where in this picture we have requirements engineering. Well, there is vision. Vision, its created traditional name would be by business analysis. And so it hasn't changed. Agile is a way to implement systems, but still somewhere above it you have to have business analysis, business ideas, which means business analysis, which means part of requirements engineering. Then you have this part which is barely mentioned consciously. This is a choice made by Scrum Guide, not to tell you how product owner miraculously finds all the requirements, how she or he synchronizes them, prioritizes them, and so on and so on. But this is huge part of the everyday job of a product manager, product owner, working with requirements, requirements solicitation, requirements analysis, requirements modeling and validation. That's what's not fully visible in the official Scrum description, but it is absolutely necessary for Scrum to work. And you can see a small word refinement here by product backlog. This is not only at the beginning, as in sequential traditional projects. You have only to improve the requirements once, and you hope they will be good for forever, or at least for the rest of the project. Here, in Agile approach, you work with requirements, improvement, refinement, all the time. Then, so the activities of product owner are very, very much the activities of a chief system analyst. Then you have product backlog, which is a more ambitious approach to what traditionally was called requirement specification. RE again. Sprint planning, RE to the highest degree. It is requirement estimation. Then you have the team. And the team, you know what a team should be involved and committed, and they should have courage to say what they really are able to do, and so on, which means the goal of a Scrum team is to implement, yes, you have guessed it, the requirements. And then you have a subset of product backlog, the most important, highest priority requirements, which are sufficiently well defined to be able to become an object for implementation, which is called sprint backlog. And choosing and evaluating sprint backlog is again a classical RE activity. And task breakout, going from requirements, sprint backlog items, to tasks to be performed during a sprint, is a typical requirements engineering activity. Burned out chart, how many requirements planned to be implemented have we implemented? Requirements monitoring job. A sprint review, showing your requirements and running your acceptance criteria, acceptance tests on them. Requirements related activity, and so on. So it is a good name, RE at Agile, because it presents us the best of both worlds. The best of solid, conservative requirements engineering used in an agile way. So I have been talking for half an hour now, saying that requirements are very important, requirements engineering crucial, vital, most important. But from reality, have you ever met a person who has the role name requirements engineer on her or his business card? If you work in IT, a soft industry, probably not. If you work in other industries where you build embedded systems, maybe you have, because in these areas the word engineering or engineering is less scary. But does that mean that I am just telling you rubbish, pretending that requirements engineering is so important, why in reality it is not? Well, let us have a look why RE is not a popular notion, not yet a popular term, because it's hidden. Well, but let's have a look at the numbers that show, by example, that really it is in a way neglected. In the world of project management, a popular certification for project management, PMI, more than 1 million certificates. ISTQB, testing certificates, certification, more than 500,000 certificates. IT, management of IT services, almost 500,000 certificates. If you compare to the numbers achieved in our area, technical, that's infinite number of certificates and people certified. A lot of people want and need to be certified. But what happens with business analysis and requirements engineering? Much fewer. IREP, now after fusion with REQP, it's approximately 40,000 certified people. So less than 10% or even less than 5% of the people who are certified as PMI project manager and so on and so on. Less than 0.5% of the testers. IIBA and Popular International Business Analysis Scheme and British Computer Society's business analysis, numerous certification schemes they have in business analysis and requirement specifications. This is still less than 50,000. So it is a problem. This is a symptom of something that is a problem. That of course everybody does requirements engineering, but sometimes under very different names. So you can see here where requirements engineering is hidden. It's hidden in project management. Reading project management standards like PMI or British standard, popular in some parts of Europe, but not in Nordic countries, which is called Prince 2, you will maybe surprised to find that a lot of these standards, in this knowledge is about requirements engineering. And that is true, because if a project manager is responsible for project success or failure, then she or he must know what requirements are. And it is hidden in ideas like BDD or other ideas, special approaches. BDD is not yet very, very popular. BDD is sometimes seen as a hacker's approach to quality. But what BDD is about, yes, to some extent it is about test automation. But first of all, it is about requirements, how to work with requirements, how to agree on requirements, how to cooperate about requirements, and how to make requirements definition better by adding test cases as complementary information. Then, well-known exploratory testing. Why is it exploratory? Well, because you explore the system while testing in order to find out, design new test cases or find problems or find out how it should be working. That means your exploration in exploratory testing is very much exploring in order to find the requirements which were not written down or forgotten or not written down well enough. And you have got MBA and like business management. MBA is a business certification which very much deals with ideas like goal, project goal, business goal. Well, goal is just another name for requirements or the reason there are requirements. More very technical approaches like TDD, test-driven development, which was designed by programmers for programmers facing what? Facing a challenge. What challenge? A challenge with missing, unclear, very changing requirements. And the answer to some extent may be TDD. So TDD may well be treated as a form of coping with requirements when they are poor. BPM, business process management, BPMN, business process modeling notation. You have heard about them, or some of you have, and this is a popular and growing industry managing business processes, but it is very much about the same that business analysis. So again, this is where requirements engineering is hidden. And test design. Don't forget that designing test cases means completing missing details from requirement specification by using special techniques called test design techniques. So this is the mystery behind the discrepancy that on one hand requirements engineering is really crucial and very important. On the other hand, you may sometimes fail to notice it. Let's try to look into an oracle crystal ball. What will be the future? And I do not think that the winners in the future will be companies, organizations, or projects who will always treat requirements in an old-fashioned way. A lot of slow and very careful modeling, analysis, and requirements work before you even start the project. Of course, such approach is sometimes the right one, the only one. When you build something very safety critical, very well defined, where the rate of change in the world, in the business requirements is not great, then it is the right way to approach software project. But very often it is not. So maybe what we'll see in the future is still more speed, a super agile, a Speedy Gonzales lean something, running like crazy without having to spend much time and only on thinking why and in which direction and hoping that prototyping will save you from this boring requirements engineering. I don't think so. I think the future will be kind of orienteering or backpacking, where you have all the stuff you need with you, but you still walk, you move in the right direction. Let's have think a minute, what is the crucial, the essential contents of such a lightweight backpack requirements or IT backpacker's rucksack? Well, these are approaches. Requirements engineering is to an enormous degree about communication, about being able to meet people, listen to people, explain to them, and together arrive at a solution. So this is what an approach called in a little funny way, Three Amigos is about. That it is never a good idea that there are lone requirement specialists who do not need to listen to other people and who don't listen to them and which are not given information by other people. Good requirements only can be created in cooperation. Then there are tools. Here I give a logotype of Jira, Atlassian Jira, but it is of course not that I advocate Jira and Jira only. Jira is a good example of the kind of tool that can make requirements management, changes, handling, archiving, versioning much more efficient and effective. But that's really tool support. Modern future requirements engineering of the future will no longer be writing down huge documents. It will be writing down requirements in such a way that they will be able to be easily found, easily seen, easily understood, and easily changed, even if they deal with very advanced needs and algorithms. Then there will be this is a gherkin. A gherkin is a cucumber with vinegar or salty water. And this is the name of a language designed by some people working with a known cucumber platform for cooperation, for writing down requirements. Gherkin-like languages that will allow us to make requirements clearer by adding example test cases to them will, I believe, are a necessary part of the equipment a worker, an agile requirements worker must have in her or his rucksack. Ears. Well, this is just a joke. Of course, we need ears, but ears is as well an acronym. from easy approach to requirements specification, and it is the name of a language designed by a guy from Rolls-Royce development of air engines. His name is Alistair Mevin, and well, what I believe we'll need in the future is more good languages for describing requirements to avoid something we want to avoid, which is the choice between formal modeling on one hand and very informal language on the other hand. And then we'll need a lot of lightweight modeling tools. Yes, we will still need UML and BPMN and other modelings. Where to go? I believe IREB, International Requirements Engineering Board, has got certifications which may be very, very useful and interesting for you. I think you will find some of these certification training courses, the training courses preparing you for these certifications at Tieturi and at Informator. And thank you very much for listening to me. It's a 1:45 Finnish time, or 1:45 Finnish time, 1:45 Swedish time now. Thank you for staying with me for a long time. I see that the number of participants of this webinar has not decreased during the course of the webinar. Thank you for staying. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for listening. And well, tackar or kiitos. Thank you very much. Yanni, to you. Any questions?
Thank you, Bogdan. And yes, I mean, if you have any questions, please, you can also email them to me later on, so you don't have to think about them right now if there is some. And about the materials, we'll send this material package to all of you who have enrolled for the webinar. So if you got this link from a friend of yours, and you didn't actually enroll, please send me email, then we know to send the material to you. Otherwise, you will get it, or you get the link where you get the material. And well, like Bogdan mentioned, there is this IREP trainings coming up, so please have a look at those. And since the testing was mentioned also, I'd like to highlight that here in Finland there are actually quite a few. There are 3 different free of charge testing events coming up, so see those on the Tieturi's website for more information. But other than that, thank you very much for all of you. I hope this has created some ideas and at least proven that yes, requirement engineering is very modern. It is really needed in the modern way of working, and I hope you have a very good day. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.